My name's Dan Baker and this is part of the ArtCare series. I'm in my studio today and I'm going to show you a little bit about it and show you around it and indeed record a song and sing and play over the end of it so you get a tune as well. Now, don't let the camera angle fool you. This area is indeed the size of a small caravan and I've managed to fit everything in. Don't know how. Anyway, I'm going to show you briefly what I've got here. So if we just pan the camera around here, you can see I've got some guitars hanging on the wall. I've got a drum kit. If I just turn it the other way, some keyboards there, an old tape recorder, still works perfectly. And I've got really the main bit of the studio is the mixing desk here, which is this piece of kit here. Into that I plug in mics such as this. You're listening to this narration on this microphone. I've got a recording machine here which is quite old school, but I have a computer which actually I use all the time because it's convenient. Gone are the days of having to thread bits of tape through a machine and have to remember all the settings on the mixing desk. It's all done for you. So I'm going to record a tune. Now, I'm just by myself here. I've got to play all the instruments. So how am I going to do it? Well, the first step is to create a rhythmic backing track onto which I can record everything. And actually I'm going to put the drums on last of all because I want to be able to play to the song. And that's really important. Every single musician who's recording has to play for that top line. So I'm just going to put the mic down here. Now I've got a drum sound on the computer. On your screen you can see that I've got something called Logic Pro open, and Logic Pro is the software that I use to record, and it's one of the industry standard ones. Now if I just put the microphone down here, I'm going to record a drum rhythm using the keyboard. So I've got a bass drum, snare drum, hi-hats, crash cymbal, ride cymbal. So I've got to record just a drum loop that I can play to, so it's going to be very quick. I'm just going to record maybe 4 bars. So there's my drum rhythm. Now on the screen you can see there's a little green area which is basically my recording. So I have to sort the timing out with this because actually I want it to be really precise. Now this is sort of thought of as being a little bit cheaty, but I'm going to be putting on real drums afterwards, so I need something that's really good from the word go. Now I'm going to go for something called 16th swing D. I'm just going to listen back to this. That's fine. Now I'm going to just edit this so that I've got a nice 4-bar phrase that I can then loop. As you can see, it goes all the way along the computer, so that means that I've now got a complete track of drums which goes on as long as I want it to. Now, next up, well, actually the first instrument I'm going to record is the bass. Now, if you record the bass line, it means that you've got a really good solid basis on which to record everything else. Some people think, well, I'll record the keyboard part first. But actually, the bass part, for me, is one of the most important bits to get down first. Because of this method, I can actually go back and record any of them at any time. And actually, that does happen. Sometimes you make a backing track and it doesn't quite work, so you go back and you record all the little bits afterwards. So I'm just going to plug my bass in and then we'll get going on that. So here's my bass sound. And that's plugged into the computer. You can see it's coming up on the little row that's just below the drums there. So all of the rows that you can see there are individual tracks, all of which play back simultaneously. So you can record lots of different things, one under the other, and essentially they'll all play back at once. So here we go then. I'm just going to leave the drums playing for a couple of bars before I come in. So there's my bass part. So I've got drums and bass. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put down some keyboards so that I've got some harmony, I've got some chords that I can then work to. So I'm just going to pick a piano sound. Now I've got some of these sounds, the sounds that you're hearing, the piano sound for example, is actually a sound that's built into the computer, and it's simply being controlled by this electric keyboard. So there's a little cable that just connects this to the computer so that I can play any sound. Indeed, if I just do this and change the track, I get a different sound that I've loaded up. So I'm going to put some piano down now. So I've got my bass guitar, which is going to play back at the same time. I've got to remember to switch off the record switch so I don't go over the top of it. And I'm going to play a little bit along with the bass. I'm going to have the bass, the drums down a little bit and the bass up, because it was quite quiet actually on the recording. That doesn't matter too much because we can mix when we're done. So I'm just going to put my bass down. And put some guitar. Some keyboards. Okay, here we go then. So I'm going to give myself a bar in because I waited for those drums. 2 bars maybe. Here we go. I'll just put the mic over here. There were 1 or 2 little problems there. There's a few wrong notes. Now, because it's MIDI information, which is Musical Instrument Digital Interface, actually, I can go back in and tweak them a bit. Don't tell anybody. So if I just go and double click on this, you can see that there's a big piano roll here. It's a bit like those old fairground rolls with the holes in the card. It's exactly the same idea with this. So if I think it was just in the verse actually. Oh, there was a slightly lazy note there. It was those ones. So I'm going to make sure that they are quantized. There we go, that's a bit better. I'm going to let that one go actually. Now, that doesn't matter too much. Now, of course, you've got to be conscientious, and actually, the more you hear a track when you're layering it up, the more you're going to notice those mistakes appearing. Now, I'm going to put some electric piano on, but I'm going to actually only put it on at the start and in the choruses, so it gives us it gives the tune a little bit of a dynamic sort of shape. I've played in the verses quite quietly, but I need to play a bit louder at the beginning and in the choruses so that it can really drive. And of course that will result with the drum kit as well. So I'm just going to record a bit of electric piano now. So I can go back, I can go all the way to the chorus now. I don't need to play through the whole thing. And there it is. So I need to put some chorus lines here. Okay, here we go. Now, I could save myself a little bit of time here by actually cutting and pasting. I could put the chorus line that I've just played over the ending. Is that cheating? Well, I suppose it is, but if you're just laying down an idea, actually it saves you a lot of time. There it is. So if I just put that there now, you can hear that the part that I've just recorded is now over the last chorus. So I've done with that. Now, a little break. You'll notice a slight break in the filming here because I'm just going to set up with my drum kit. So here I am with a slightly different setup now. I've got two microphones here, the drum kit. Now the drum kit's got 4 microphones on it. I've got a bass drum, a snare drum mic, and then these two which actually sit over the top to record a general view of the drums. So it includes the cymbals and the general ambience. Why 2 mics? Well, we've got 2 ears and everything we hear is in stereo. So I'd use both of these mics instead of just the one. So on the computer you can see that 4 of the tracks have got a flashing red light, and those 4 tracks are actually the 4 microphones that are coming from the drums. A couple of them are plugged in via my mixing desk and a couple of them straight into my audio interface, which is what we'd actually use to send signals from mics into the computer. So I'm going to put the drums down now. Now I need headphones because I'm recording with mics. I don't want the music from the speakers to go into the mics as well. I need everything to be as controllable as possible. So I'm going to just put the drums down, and I've got a nice 4-bar intro, and let's see what happens. Give myself a little sound check in the headphones so that I've got a good balance between playing the drums and being able to hear what I'm doing. So here we go then. So if I just press record, it's going to give me the 4 bars counting before I come in. So let's make sure that's switched off there. Lots of things to think about. Whee! Nearly tripped up there. There's not enough room in this studio. Now, obviously I had to be very, very careful to get some sort of musical sort of impetus, so really the dynamics, and trying to play in time, of course. Now, if I go back to the beginning, you can see the blue files there. They are what are called oscilloscope traces. They are representation, graphical representation of what's been recorded. So you can see that there's a kick drum at the top, and then the snare drum. You can see the snare fill there, and then the overhead mics. Now, those two mics were actually picking up rather different levels. You can see that there's a bit of a difference. I should have sorted that out before I started, but actually we can correct one track with respect to the other to get a result. So, slight hiatus again while I get my guitar, and I'm going to set up the vocal mic, and I'm going to finish off the recording by singing and playing the guitar through it. So here we are with the guitar and vocal setup. These mics here, which were on the drums, I'm just using one of them. Now, I've got this shield in front of the mic, so it prevents the sort of pa. You can probably hear it on this mic, because air is going into the microphone with a P and a B sound. You don't want that. Now, I've also got my guitar. This one is a Castrol GTX oil can guitar. This is made in Cape Town by Township Guitars, and it's fantastic. It sounds great. So I'm going to do a vocal take, but at the same time record guitar. On the computer, you can see that there are two record lights flashing, one for the vocals and one for the guitar. So there's my guitar part, and I'm going to be singing into this mic. I don't have to get right up to the mic, and in fact it's better if you don't, actually, because the mic has to hear a bit of the ambience of the voice rather than everything so directly. So here we go. I'm going to sing and play this tune. You've probably guessed by now. It is Light My Fire by The Doors. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Everything's been one take so far. Shouldn't say things like that, really.
You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Time to wallow in the mire. Trying to we can only lose, and our love becomes a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire.
That top note was a little bit off. Now it's time to mix this tune. So far we've got all the recordings done, but we've got to make it so that it can be essentially made into a file that can be played back on a CD player or a mobile phone or whatever it is. So, slight hiatus, and I'll see you at the mixing desk. So here I am at my console, and I'm going to do a little bit of mixing to finish off with. Now we've got all these tracks, we've got guitar and vocals. I'm just going to switch those off record. So that means that we've got a completely clean slate. At the top you can see that my original drums, they're greyed out because I've actually muted those because my real drums are on there. So the first thing to do is just to open a mixing desk on the computer. You can see all the faders there. So it's a graphical representation of the old mixer that I've got here. So back in the day, we'd have physical faders and control knobs. And actually, some studios still work that way. But this is convenient because you can save all your settings and you can do all the other things, including putting effects on. So let's just have a little listen to the intro and just see how things are moving. I can switch that click off for a start. That was where that Rhodes chord was wrong as well. The keyboard chord, there was a problem there. Bah, gotta search for that note because it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't find it. It's not that one. It's going to be in the piano part somewhere. There it is. The third B on the grassy knoll. Yay! Now we can't hear those vocals. Now the vocal line, the top line, is the most important bit. So how are we going to raise these vocals? Because it's already quite high here. Well, the answer is we use something called a compressor. Now what a compressor does, if I just go onto the vocal track here, the compressor actually reduces the dynamic range of the vocals. So instead of really quiet and really loud sounds, everything is loud. So that's what it has to be to sort of go over the din of that drum kit there. So if I just go to a compressor, a little window opens up with an old school VU meter. Now what this has to do is essentially take the peaks off. So at the moment the meter's on maximum. I need it to be bouncing around kind of this area for it to actually have the desired effect. So I'm just going to listen to that vocal. I'm just going to play from where we got to.
You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you.
Now you can hear all the words, whereas before it was kind of, oh, can't hear anything. So maybe I need a little bit of reverb on this as well. Now reverberation, it's essentially you're simulating being in a room, so you hear the echo off the walls. So if I just play this back now with a bit of reverb.
Girl, we couldn't get much higher.
Now that's quite a lot, a bit too much, but what reverb does is it actually gives the voice a little bit of a spatial wash over the mix. So if I just take that down a bit.
Girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah. Come on, baby, light my fire.
So we can hear everything at the moment. For my money at the moment, the electric piano is a little bit high in the mix, and the piano could do with coming up a little bit. Now the bass guitar itself is a little bit flabby, and we could do something with that as well.
Know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar.
Guitar's a little bit high in the mix. It's a bit sort of tick, 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 tick. And it's just a little bit present. Sometimes when you mix instruments, actually the best way to do it is to mix it, is to put it at a specific level. And if you only notice it when it's gone, actually that's quite a good way of mixing some things like a Hammond organ, for example, or a clavinet or rhythm guitars. You want these things to contribute, but you don't want them to get in the way of anything. So I'm just going to take the guitar down a bit. At the moment, I'm quite happy with the mix. It's not sounding too bad.
Know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you. Girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah. Come on, baby, light my fire.
Now, a general rule of thumb with anything that's recorded with a microphone, we have to strip all the bass off. And the reason for that is that actually it can become very confusing in the mix. You think, where's all that rumble coming from? Because mics, like the one I sang in, they pick up all the sort of, all the wobbling about of a building or the floor or anything like that. Or if you're in a London studio, the best mics will hear a tube train going past. So actually I'm going to cut all the bass end off the vocals and probably the overhead microphones on the drums as well, because then it allows the only two instruments, which are the bass guitar and the bass drum, to actually occupy their own space in the mix. So I'm just going to do that, and I think we're about there.
If I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try no, we can only lose.
So there we are. There is a recording process from beginning to end, and I hope that has given you an insight into how records are made. Indeed, if you listen to Superstition by Stevie Wonder, he did this in exactly this way. He put the drums down first, then he put bass sounds, then the clavinet sounds, that famous clavinet sounds, then the brass section, then his vocals. So everything was stepped like that. And there we are. Thanks for watching.
Know that it would be untrue. You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher, yeah. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try no, we can only lose. And our love becomes a